السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله وكفى والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والذين جاهدوا فينا لنهدينهم سبلنا. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. Every single person in this world who's alive today, and every single person who has walked on the face of this earth before us, and every single person who will come into this world at some point or another, has been seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whether they know it or not. A person who wants love is in reality looking for al-wadud. A person who wants a sense of peace in their life is in reality looking for as-salam. A person who's seeking the truth is in reality seeking al-haq subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah ta'ala, He says, يا أيها الإنسان إنك كادح إلى ربك كدحا فملاقيه. That, O humanity, you are toiling towards your Lord with great effort, and one day you will meet Him. You and I were like those fish, the salmon, that are born in a particular river, and it spends the first part of its life just going with the flow downstream until it reaches the ocean, and it spends some time there, and then its instincts kick in. And it finds that same river it was born in. It goes against the flow, against the current, until it reaches that same exact tributary that it was born in, and it completes its life cycle there. Or like those sea turtles, that the mother sea turtle, she lays her egg on a particular beach somewhere, and those eggs hatch, and then they venture out into the water, and they go their whole lives until something tells them to go back to that same exact beach that they were born on, and it's there that they die. Every single one of us wishes to go back to our source with a capital S. So if people who are seeking love, people who seek peace, people who are seeking reality and truth, they're all seeking Allah, it's the same thing for people who seek happiness. Even though none of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the most happy, we know that those people who achieve lasting and true happiness are those people who pass the test of this world, and they're with Allah Ta'ala in the hereafter, and those are those people about whom we can say, radiyallahu anhum wa radu an. That's real happiness. So what our deen teaches us is that even though it's easy to go with the flow in this life, that a person sometimes has to swim upstream, a person has to go against their nafs, a person has to go against the dunya to achieve real and lasting happiness in their existence. And when we hear that, it sounds kind of obvious, but there's a problem that comes with seeking happiness today. There's a solution that our deen gives us, and there's a warning that all of us need to hear in this regard. So first, what's the problem with seeking happiness? What's the problem with that? When we say in our founding documents, you have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our own biology reinforces this. When a baby's born, it doesn't just lay down in a bed and just sit there. It cries out for food. It cries out for its mother's touch. When a child is growing up and they taste something sweet, your biology reinforces it. Your brain releases dopamine and you feel good. And then maybe another time you get hurt, or you're given a healthy dose of shame, or maybe a not so healthy dose of shame, and you feel bad and you learn to seek pleasure and avoid pain. And we go through our whole lives like that. What could be wrong with that? Except that at some point you're seeking pleasure and your avoidance of pain, it doesn't serve you. So like for many school districts, this is the last week of school. And today there's lots of young men, when they finish their last final exam, what are they going to do? They're going to go home and they're going to fire up their video game systems. And they're going to be up until 3 a.m. and they're going to feel fantastic. They're going to feel great. They're not going to think about sleep. They're not going to think about food. They're not going to think about anything else. And it's good for them, okay. As long as you don't miss Salatul Fajr, alhamdulillah. But then you fast forward to the end of summer, and it's 3 in the afternoon, and you have that same young man, and he has the same video game, and he's playing it, and he feels like this is such a horrible waste of time. It doesn't even make me feel good. but I can't do anything else because everything else feels so boring. I said this at another place, and one young man, he came to me after, he said he felt scared like I was spying on him or something. Because everybody, I mean, it's not spying, we all go through it. Maybe some people, they didn't play video games, they don't know what that's like. You just look at your phone. You look at your phone, and maybe earlier in the day, you saw something on your feed, you saw something on the news that made you interested, your ears perked up. And then later on, fast forward to now for a different person, to the end of the night, they're sitting in bed, they know they have to go to sleep. They know that the blue light they're looking at, it's killing their sleep. They know that they've seen everything that they can possibly see on their feed today. There's nothing else, but they keep on scrolling. It's such a common experience. We call it doom scrolling. We call it revenge procrastination, and everybody does it. But at some point, your seeking of pleasure and your avoidance of pain, it's not helping you. We say, okay, Muslims, we don't drink alcohol, we don't party, we don't do any of that nonsense stuff, we don't need the phones, we don't need the video games, we don't need any of that. There's one thing that all Muslims do. There's one vice that we all have, even the most religious people, and that's kulu washrabu, and we forget the rest of the ayah. And we eat. And now you look at food, that's something that you can't avoid. And I don't need to talk about that. We don't need to talk about rates of obesity, 40% of approaching obesity. We don't need to talk about diabetes going through the roof. We don't need to talk about all those things. I'll just give you one example that doctors now, they talk about something that they haven't seen before. That's neonatal obesity. That's babies that are born obese. These are people who haven't made a single food choice in their entire life, and they're born carrying that weight. And we can say, okay, well, the parents, they have to have responsibility. There's personal responsibility. I mean, as Muslims, we'd agree to that, personal responsibility. But then what's funny is if you look at the phrase personal responsibility, you ask yourself, well, where did that come from? It's funny, you look at databases of journal articles and newspaper articles, and you look, when did the first usage of personal responsibility, who were the first people to say that? And it was the tobacco industry. Because in the 1960s and 1970s, tobacco industry, they realized that their products was killing people. So instead of pulling that and saying we don't want to do this anymore, they said we just want people to exercise personal responsibility. And then people can make their own choice. And you look at the advertisements from that time period and you see there's no encouragement of personal responsibility. But I don't need to give you guys examples of those advertisements because you've seen something else. You've seen on a bag of chips, it says open up a bag of fun. Or you've seen Coca-Cola, it's a bottle of fizzy corn syrup, two people are on the beach, one person is handing another person a glass bottle of something that's going to hurt them long term. It says share the love. And you're supposed to exercise personal responsibility. It doesn't say share increased chance of chronic metabolic disease. It doesn't say that. It has on the label, the back of it, something that you and I can't read. I teach English for a living, I can't read the back of that. How many different names there are for sugar. They don't want people to exercise personal responsibility. And that makes perfect sense because the tobacco companies purchased all the food companies in the 1990s and 2000s because they had to diversify their investments. And they used the same tactics of giving people just enough of something so that they want more, but never enough so that they can say that they're fulfilled. You know, the people who make those video games and social media apps, who do they consult to get help on hijacking your biology? Now you ask young people, how many of you know somebody who've in those mobile games, those free mobile games, have spent an unreasonable amount of money on in-app purchases? You ask them, you see them, they all smile sheepishly. And then their hands start to go up and they start laughing because 9 out of 10 kids, their hands go up. Well, where did that come from? That 9 out of 10 kids know somebody who spent an incredible, an unreasonable amount of money on in-app purchases because they consult people from Las Vegas. They consult them to learn how to give you just a little bit of dopamine to make you want more but never enough. How to give you enough salt, sugar, and fat so you want to take another bite but you never have enough nutrition that you're fulfilled. And Las Vegas, what kind of business model is that? I remember when I was a teenager, one of the most religious people I'd ever known. He's a good brother. I was shocked to learn that before he became religious, before he made tawbah, he went to Las Vegas. And he spent all the money he had. And not only did he spend all the money he had, he drove back to Southern California, he went to the bank, he withdrew all the money that he and his wife had saved up, almost $100,000. Went straight back to Sin City and blew all of it. There was nobody there standing around saying, sir, I think you've had enough. Sir, maybe it's too much. Sir, maybe you should stop. They don't do that. It's predatory. It's a predatory business practice. And it's built into your food, it's built into your entertainment, so we're eating ourselves to death and we're entertaining ourselves to death. What does this all mean? We're not just criticizing society around you. It's to say that at some point, your instinct to seek pleasure and to avoid pain, it doesn't serve you. It's what Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam said according to hadith, that people who chase after dunya, they're like people who drink seawater. It just makes you more and more thirsty until it kills you. So if that's the problem with blindly seeking happiness in this life, then what's the solution that our deen gives us? What's the solution that we have? And it sounds so simple. It sounds so simple, but the more you think about it, the more profound you realize it is. And all it is to prefer the akhirah over the dunya in every way that you can. Again, it just sounds too simple. Mawlana Ashraf Ali Tanawi rahimahullah, Hakim al-Ummah, he gives two examples to prove this. The first example, imagine you have a friend, he comes to you, and your friend tells you, I've been offered 2 homes, I can only take 1. I've been offered 2 homes, I can only take 1. The first home, it's a ramshackled house, but I get to move into it today. I get to keep it for 30 days, and then after that, it's taken from me. Ramshackled home, 30 days, and then it's taken from me. Second option is I get nothing. I had no home. I have to wait 30 days, and then I get to live in the house of my dreams, and I keep it permanently. What option would you tell your friend? What advice would you give to your friend? And it's pretty obvious. Every single one of us would say that you wait the 30 days and you get the home of your dreams. But how many of us, we fail to follow our own advice when it comes to ourselves? And we prefer this dunya that, number one, how could you enjoy it when you see the injustice and crimes that take place around the world? How could you enjoy it, even if you had all of it? And number two, is it guaranteed for you even for 30 days? Are you going to have this dunya for 30 days? We've heard so many stories about people who pass away suddenly, young people, old people, it doesn't matter. You're not even guaranteed to make it to breakfast tomorrow. So how can you prefer that over the home of your dreams that lasts forever? That makes sense? Okay, this is why we're in the masjid on Friday, because we prefer the akhirah over the dunya. But how does that help us with all the problems that I just mentioned? Hakim al-Ummah, he gives another example. He says 2 friends. Again, friends. One friend's rich and the other friend is poor. So one day the rich friend, he comes to his poor friend and he tells him, I'm so stressed out. I have so many problems in my life that the food that I eat doesn't even taste good. The food that I eat, I can't enjoy it. I have so much stress. The poor friend, he hears this and he says, you should come to my house, because in my house, we eat the most delicious foods. And the rich man, he hears it, he's a little bit skeptical. He says, my friend, he's poor. How could he have better food than I do? But it's his friend, and he wants to try some of that delicious food. So he says, okay. He goes to his house on the appointed day, and the rich friend, he shows up, and he's hungry because he wants to eat that food. When he arrives, the poor friend, he tells him, the food's not ready yet. Sit down, and we'll talk. So he starts talking and talking. He makes long conversation. And the rich guest, he's sitting there, and he's getting really hungry. He says, brother, is the food ready yet? He says, let me check. And he checks, says, no, the food's not ready yet. He keeps on talking and talking and talking. Time passes, and the man's getting very hungry. He says, brother, is there any food inside the house? Because I'm getting really hungry. The poor host, he tells him, we have leftovers from yesterday, but it's just simple vegetable curry and some old bread. You don't want that. What I'm preparing for you today is very delicious. And he keeps on talking, and he makes long conversation until the man becomes so hungry. He says, brother, if there's anything in the house, please let me have it because I'm so hungry. So he brings it out. And they said that that rich man, when he saw that food, he started eating like a wild person. Every single bite, he said, Subhanallah, Subhanallah, and he started eating it. When the poor friend, he saw that this man had filled up, he said, brother, the fresh food, it's ready. And he put it out in front of him. He said, please take a bite. The rich man said, I can't, I'm full. He said, brother, this food is so much more delicious than what you ate. The rich man said, nothing could be better than the food that I just ate. And that's when the poor man turned it on his friend. He said, didn't I tell you we have the best food in my house? Because in my house, we eat when we're hungry. In your house, every time you get an inkling for this or that, you're nibbling on something or the other, and you never even get to taste your food. Isn't that the same with us? That we were so happy in Ramadan just a few months ago? That maybe the time for iftar came and the food wasn't ready, all you had were dates and water, but in that moment, those dates and that water was the best food you ever had. And you had barakah in your time, because when you sat down to eat, you didn't just sit down to eat the whole night long. You ate a little bit and you had to come to the masjid for Isha and Taraweeh. And afterwards, you went in your car, you went home, you didn't stay up on your phone all night scrolling, because you knew that you have to get to sleep because there's only a few hours and you don't want to miss Salat al-Fajr. You preferred the akhirah to the dunya in every single instance, and it made you happy. This is not just something I'm saying. It's not just something that worked for centuries for the people who came before us. It's something that's backed up by research. If you look at any Ivy League school now, they have a course on happiness. Happiness is a research field in its own right. And if you go to like Yale or Princeton, the most sought after course amongst all the undergraduates is the course on happiness. What do they teach you in that course? They teach you that happiness is a paradox, because people who value their own sense of happiness, people who put a premium on their own joy, they're the least happy people in the entire world. In other words, if you don't have something to sacrifice for, if you have a goal that you believe in and you're willing to sacrifice for that goal, you're happy. But if you just make your own self, that's your entire goal, is making yourself happy, you're not. And it's not just something they say, they have reasons for it. The first reason is that people who seek their own happiness, they're too busy trying to get more intensively happy moments that they don't enjoy the moment they're in. Second reason, such people, they fail to realize that a person's overall sense of happiness depends more on the frequency of happy events as opposed to the intensity. So we're on summer vacation. Some people might get a week off. Some people might get 2 weeks off. Students are going to have a lot of time off. And maybe the whole time goes by and it's quite pleasant. But some people, instead of looking at all the pleasant moments that they've had, they'll think, if only I went to such and such place for vacation and I had a really intensively happy time there, then I'd be happy. Research shows probably not, because you'd still be the same person that you are there, and you'd still have the same outlook. And then the third reason why such people are not happy, and this is the biggest reason, is because such people, they put less emphasis on meaning and purpose than on their sense of happiness. And study after study across the entire world shows time and time again that people who have a sense of meaning, people who have a sense of purpose, people who have something to sacrifice for are more happy than other people. And isn't that what this time, this blessed month of Dhul Hijjah is about? Isn't that what this festival, Eid al-Adha, festival of sacrifice is about? That you have something to sacrifice for. And no one's asking you to sacrifice your only begotten son. We're asking you to sacrifice those sins that weigh down your soul, or to sacrifice those habits that hold you back and you know they're not even good for you. That's what we're being asked to sacrifice, to make repentance and tawbah in this time, so that we can become closer to Allah Ta'ala. We can become happier people. We were so happy in Ramadan, we were fasting. Try it again in this month. For many of us, tomorrow will be Yawm al-Arafah. Fast. Forgives the previous year of sin and forgives the coming year of sin. The most special day in Hajj. Fast it tomorrow. Take a moment to step back from all those things that we're doing, seeking pleasure blindly, but it just holds us down, holds us back. Take a moment to try to think, how can I serve other people rather than serving myself? This deen is a straight path to Allah Ta'ala. Imam Fakhruddin al-Razi rahimahullah, he says, what is this straight path? What is Islam? It's number one, worshiping the Creator, and number two, serving the creation. Just look around the world today, there's so many ways you can serve creation. Stopping the genocide in Palestine, fixing our community so we can become a permanent source of support for causes of justice here in Los Angeles and around the entire world. Being people who serve in the masjid rather than people who are served in the masjid. There's so many ways that we can have something that's more important than ourselves, and we can seek our own happiness in that path. So if that's the problem of our society, and that's the solution, then what's the last part, the warning? The warning is sometimes we might be staying away from all those unhealthy behaviors. And maybe we're also engaging in this positive act of charity, of giving back. But still we feel weighed down by a type of pain that haunts us. And religion is a beautiful thing, but sometimes we can take religion and we can twist it. And people can take something that's good and they can use it in a way to hurt themselves. Sometimes people take religion and they make themselves special in ways that harm them. We say, I have all this pain, and usually we go to a doctor to see what the pain is, and that's a blessing, because that pain, it teaches us something about ourselves, we can get it fixed. But sometimes we take that pain and we spiritually bypass it. We say, I'm just an unlucky person, and this is how it is, and I'm going to suffer in this world, and then I'm going to die, and then I'm going to be repaid on the Yawm al-Qiyamah. We try to spiritually bypass our pain. We try to spiritually bypass our way into some kind of twisted sense of happiness. And that's when we have to remember the wisdom of Sayyidina Rasulullah, that he said that your nafs has a right upon you. This was his advice to his companions, that your nafs has a right upon you, that you feed it good, wholesome, nutritious food, that you give yourself rest, restorative sleep that makes you feel awake in every sense of the word when you go out in the world, so you can support those people who don't have food to eat, who don't have a place to sleep because their homes have been bombed. You have to take care of your nafs. And if we said that, you go through life as a child and you learn about pain and pleasure, and sometimes you go through your child with some scrapes and bruises and maybe even some broken bones, but some of us, we go through child with other wounds that we can't see. And we carry that with us. And we carry that pain with us. Every single person comes into this world, you experience events that are overwhelming. The easiest proof of that is childbirth. Anybody in here had a kid, they watched their kids be born. No kid comes into this world from their mother smiling and giggling. They come in crying, because this world represents a lot of overwhelming experiences. And the fact is, we love our parents. May Allah Ta'ala give them long life and good health. We love our parents if they passed on. May Allah Ta'ala have mercy on them and raise their rank. But the fact of the matter is that every single one of our parents, none of them was perfect. And not a single one of us is perfect either. So now, if we know that the world is filled with these traumatic events, and we know that our parents weren't perfect, and we know that Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that that person who has a good sunnah, they get the reward of acting upon that sunnah, that action, and everybody who follows them. And that person who enacts a bad sunnah, they get the sin of that sunnah and everybody who follows them. Then we have a choice in front of us. We can take all of the maybe bad habits that we see around us that we grew up with, eating ourselves into an early grave, entertaining ourselves to death, and maybe dealing with our pain in a way that's not constructive. We can take all of that intergenerational trauma, and we can turn to our kids and put it on their shoulders without a single word, just body language that says, now you deal with it. Or we can be like Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, that he looked around the world that he grew up in. He said, this worshiping idols, worshiping your desires, these things are wrong. He didn't say it from a place of arrogance. He said it from a place of love. He called Ya Abati, he called his father and the people around him. And he got rid of those bad false traditions. And instead he built something that was good, strong, and beautiful, and we still use it today to find Allah, the Hajj. We still use it today to come close to Allah. What kind of a person do you or I want to be? That we just pass the buck, we pass responsibility, or we deal with our problems and we become a good ancestor to the people who come after us. We say, it's hard, I can't do it alone. But that's why our elders have built communities, and they've built opportunities for us to help each other. You see, because you and I, we're not like fish or tortoises in the sea, that one fish gets sick or it goes off or gets hurt, too bad, they keep on swimming. Allah Ta'ala, he didn't just send books and say, now you deal with it. He sent prophets. And the prophets, alayhimus salam, and the people with them, they showed us that if somebody falls down on the path, what happens? You reach out and you pick them up, because we're human beings, that's what we do. It's a path of rahmah. So our elders in this community and other communities, they gave us opportunities to seek healing and to seek help when we have overwhelming sense of pain that's preventing us from being happy in any sense of the word. We have to seek out those services. And we have to help in serving other people in our community. We have to live with this sacrifice of Abraham alayhi salam in mind. Not a sacrifice of your son, but a sacrifice of all of those bad habits that hold us back. Because you and I, it sounds kind of cheesy, but every time I think about it, I have to say it. That you and I think that you and I came so that we could break all of those false traditions that we see. And we can open the eyes of ourselves and other people that we're all seeking al-wadud. We're all seeking as-salam. We're all seeking al-haq subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah ta'ala, He gave us a straight path for us to achieve that goal. And when you fully understand that, when it dawns on you, when you realize that, with an overwhelming sense of gratitude, a person would have to say, Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alameen. That my prayer and my sacrifice, my living, my dying, everything is for Allah ta'ala. And if we do that, then maybe Allah ta'ala will include us amongst those people. Radiyallahu anhum wa radu an. And then we'll achieve everlasting happiness. May Allah ta'ala give us tawfiq. May Allah ta'ala give victory to the Palestinians. May Allah ta'ala give us and let us lead lives that enable us to say that we helped them in that cause. And we helped the people around us, and we didn't waste our time on this earth. Wa akhir da'wana an alhamdulillah rabbil alameen.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. قال الله تعالى في كتابه العزيز: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. وقال سيدنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: اتق الله حيثما كنت، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. بارك الله لنا ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعنا وإياكم بالآيات وذكر الحكيم. استغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا بين يدي الساعة من يطع الله ورسوله فقد رشد ومن يعصهما فإنه لا يضر إلا نفسه ولا يضر الله شيئا أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا محمد عبدك ورسولك وصل على المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات وألف بين قلوبهم وأصلح ذات بينهم وانصرهم على عدوك وعلى عدوهم اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا وأزواجه وذريته قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أرحم أمتي بأمتي أبو بكر وأشدهم في أمر الله عمر وأصدقهم حياء عثمان وأقضاهم علي وفاطمة سيدة نساء أهل الجنة والحسن والحسين سيدا شباب أهل الجنة وحمزة أسد الله وأسد رسوله اللهم اغفر للعباس وولدي مغفرة ظاهرة باطنة لا تغادر ذنبا الله في أصحابي لا تتخذوهم غرضا من بعدي فمن أحبهم فبحبي أحبهم ومن أبغضهم فببغضي أبغضهم وخير أمتي قرني ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا